Have you ever noticed that American houses are mostly made of wood? Well, in Europe, homes are built from brick, stone, or concrete. Well, you're not alone. People around the world find this pretty weird. Is it just because Americans love the sound of creaky floors? Is there a secret deal with the lumber industry? Or is there actually a real person behind this? When I first came to the US, I was shocked to see how many houses were built out of wood. Where I'm from, homes are solid. They'll last for generations. But here, a strong wind, and let's just say you might wake up to find your house has changed addresses overnight. So why do Americans build this way? Is it history, economics, climate, or just because they want to rebuild their houses every 50 years? Before we break this down, hit the like button and subscribe. Unlike an American house, your support won't blow away in a storm. To understand why American homes are built with wood, we have to go back, way back, to a time when America had more trees than people, and I mean a lot more. When European settlers arrived, they found endless forests stretching for miles. Wood was everywhere. It was the most affordable, easy material to use at the time. So what did they do? They built homes fast. Colonial America was covered in forest. East Coast was a giant lumber yard with oak, pine, cedar, and redwood growing in abundance. Unlike in Europe, where timber was already scarce and expensive, here was free for the taking. Early settlers built log cabins because they were quick, easy, and didn't require advanced tools. In Europe, deforestation was already a problem, and stone brick was more accessible and durable. People there built for generations, while in America, the focus was on speed and survival. In England, for example, laws heavily regulated who could cut down trees, but in America, if you had an axe, you had lumber. In the 1800s, Americans also developed a new way to build houses, the balloon frame technique. Instead of using heavy timber beams like old log cabins, this method used lightweight 2x4 wooden studs, making houses faster and cheaper to build. This technique spread like wildfire because it didn't require highly skilled labor. Anyone could do it. That had a big impact on American housing. Entire towns popped up almost overnight during westward expansion. In contrast, European masonry houses required skilled masons in weeks or even months to complete. The expansion of railroads in the 19th century made it even easier to transport massive amounts of lumber across the country. Lumber mills exploded, turning America into a wood-building powerhouse. During the gold rush in 1849, another boom period, settlers needed houses ASAP. They didn't have time to wait for bricks to be made or stone to be cut. Wood was fast, cheap, and available. Alright, so history explains why Americans started building with wood. But why do they still do it today? I mean, it's not like the US ran out of bricks. Well, part of the answer comes down to something we can't control: Mother Nature. If you live in Europe, your biggest threat to your house might be a landslide or a flood. But in the US, tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfire, you name it, we got it. The US gets over 1,000 tornadoes a year, while most of Europe gets fewer than 100. Tornado Alley in Midwest experiences massive storms every year, and brick houses don't handle tornadoes well. Brick homes collapse in chunks, while wood frame houses tend to flex and break apart in smaller pieces. In a tornado, you'd rather have a roof fly off like a frisbee than have a brick wall give you unplanned home renovation. Florida and the Gulf Coast get hit by hurricanes constantly, and wood is easier to rebuild quickly. Some newer homes use hurricane-resistant materials, but most of the US still sticks to wood for cost reasons. California, the Pacific Northwest, and even the Midwest are all set at risk of major earthquakes. Brick and concrete are rigid, meaning they crack and collapse easily during a quake. Wood frame houses can sway and absorb energy better than stone or brick. That's why places like Los Angeles still prefer wood frame houses, even if they could afford to build in concrete. Also, wildfire is another reason why we use wood. Wait, doesn't wood burn? It does, but here's the surprising part. Brick and concrete aren't fireproof either. Inside most modern houses, there's still wood framing under the surface. Plus, rebuilding after wildfire needs to be fast, and wood is quicker and cheaper to work with. Some fire-resistant materials are being used in modern construction, but cost keeps most homes wood-based. Alright, so we know history and natural disasters play a role in America's love for wooden houses, but here's the real kicker. Even if there were no tornadoes, hurricanes, or earthquakes, Americans would still build with wood. Why? Because it's cheap. When it comes to building houses, wood is faster, cheaper, and easier to work with than brick or concrete. In America, time is money, which is why we rather slap some wood together and call it a house than wait months for bricks to dry. The US has some of the largest forests in the world and a massive timber industry. This makes wood readily available and expensive compared to brick, which requires firing, kilns, transport, and skilled labor. Brick and concrete are pricier for a reason. Bricks are heavy, require special production, and need skilled masons to install. Concrete is strong, but also needs reinforcement, curing time, and specialized labor. In a fast-moving housing market like the US, builders prefer speed and affordability over long-time durability. Americans like to build fast, and wood-frame house can be built in weeks. They can probably go from foundation to under a roof in a month. Prefabricated components make it even faster. You can build entire neighborhoods in weeks. On the other hand, brick and concrete takes way longer. European homes take months or even years to complete because of the masonry work. America's move more often, so houses are expected to last multiple generations like in Europe. After World War II, America needed millions of homes fast to accommodate returning soldiers and their families. The suburban boom of 1950s led to mass-produced wood-frame houses built quickly and affordably. Companies like Louis Vuitton pioneered cookie-cutter suburbs, where entire neighborhoods were built assembly line style, all with wood. Is there a reason to change everything now? Some modern construction is shifting toward concrete and steel, but wood is still dominant because of the cost and tradition. The U.S. housing market prioritizes affordability and speed, not multi-generational durability like in Europe. So, wood is cheaper, faster, and easier to work with, but there's another factor at play here: culture. In Europe, homes are built to last centuries. In America, houses are built to be lived in for a few decades, then either renovated or replaced. And that says a lot about how Americans view home ownership. Many European families inherit homes that have been in the family for generations. Brick and stone homes are expensive up front, but it means to last lifetimes. In America, homes are an investment. US has a much higher rate of people moving than Europe. Houses are built with expectations of selling or renovating within a few decades. The goal is often resale value, not passing a house down for 100+ years. Americans like DIY renovations because what's a weekend without a Home Depot run and an unfinished project? Wood frame houses are easier to modify and renovate, leading to a huge do-it-yourself home improvement culture in the US. Shows like Fixer Upper and DIY Network showcase how Americans expect to customize or remodel their homes over time. Europeans prefer long-term stability. In Europe, home renovations are less common because the homes are built solid from the start. Many people prefer to buy a home once and live in it for a life, rather than constantly renovating. We know that America is the land of suburbs. The US has vast open land, making it easy to build sprawling suburbs and cheaper wood-based homes. Car culture means people don't need to live in dense urban brick buildings like in Europe. And in Europe, cities are built for walkability. European cities are denser, meaning homes are often attached row houses or apartment buildings made of brick or stone. Public transportation and walkable cities mean homes are built vertically instead of sprawling out. So, in the end of the day, Americans and Europeans build differently because they think differently about home ownership. In the US, houses are short-term investment that people expect to modify, flip, or rebuild. In Europe, homes are long-term structures built to withstand centuries. Is one approach better than the other? Well, that depends. Do you value long-term durability, or do you prefer affordability and flexibility? Either way, both styles says a lot about a culture that created them. But here's the real question: which approach do you prefer? Would you rather live in a solid stone house passed down for a generation, or a cozy wooden home you can remodel anytime? Drop a comment below. Are you team brick fortress or team hope this house survives the next storm? Unless, of course, you prefer a tent, then all bets are off.